Hey Vic, can I get updates on Glasgow, Fumagalli, and Chubb?
Yeah, Glasgow, sprained his ankle a little bit. He's going to be out for the next few days at least, and then we'll see after that. We don't think it's a long injury at all. Chubb's just getting the day off today. We're going to be conservative with him this week and give him some days to rest his knee. And who was the other one?
Fumagalli.
Yeah, he's got an abdomen issue that he's actually getting it checked right now, and I don't have an update from that check, but don't think it's too serious.
Overall question, the linemen are obviously protecting each other, but can you tell whether the run game is getting fine-tuned and is sharp enough on offense?
I like the things we're doing in the run game. We didn't run it a whole lot the other night. I like what I see in the run game, but, when you're practicing the way we're practicing, it's always hard to totally evaluate it. Are we moving the pile? Are we getting 2? Are we getting 4? Are we getting 3? Are we getting 6? So that will be the telling point there, but I like the direction we're headed in.
Next up, Mike Kliss.
Coach, after watching the tape, what did you think of Drew Lock the other day, and where do you think he is with, the opener 2 weeks away?
Well, there's obviously some stuff from the other day practice at the stadium that'll be good learning experiences for him, as it was for our whole team. I like where he's at. I think it was good the other night to go down there and do that work, get in the stadium, get in the big league park, although there's not fans, but the crowd noise kind of made it feel real. I like where he's at. We'll see how it goes.
Next up, Jeff.
Vic, I had 2 for you. The first being Fumagalli, when he first got here, had a sports hernia. Is it something like that, or do you know what it is?
No, I think it's more something related to that, in that he doesn't have a sports hernia or anything structurally wrong with that. There may have been a suture down there that usually dissolves, but that didn't dissolve. So that's why it's a little abstract, so okay. I don't have a lot to say about it.
All right, thanks. And
what was the other one?
The other one is, where do you feel Mark Barron can fit in your defense?
I don't know. We're going to find out. It was, John wanted to be proactive with that in light of us losing Stranad, and Todd, with his calf injury, we were getting a little thin there. So he's obviously been a good player in the league. He's a guy that we'll see how he can fit in. He's got a lot to learn in a short period of time, but we'll see.
Next up, Arnie Stapleton, go ahead.
Hey, Vic, I know in the draft, you guys, as well as your division rivals, all added speed, added explosiveness to try to rein in the blazing Kansas City Chiefs. I know Hamler's been hurt, but how do you think that explosiveness is coming together on your roster now to help you compete in 2020?
Well, it's coming together, at its own little pace. Jerry's still learning the offense, playing in the NFL, learning going against the different coverages that he'll see in the NFL. And in Hamler's case, he hadn't been out there very much recently, so, it's hard to say. But I do think the final product eventually will look good with those 2 guys and the other guys we already had, and Drew at quarterback. So I'm optimistic, but, we've hit a detour here that we're going to have to get back on track.
Next up, Brandon Christophe.
Vic, how do you balance this week? Normally would have been a kind of a throttling back and looking ahead to your first opponent for the starters, but you still have so many, a couple starting spots up and guys battling on the back end, and they normally be getting ready for a 4th preseason game. So how do you kind of balance those two to get the right amount of work for everybody?
Yeah, it's hard because really in a normal camp, what we did at the stadium the other night would have been the first preseason game. So this would have been the 2nd week of games, which is usually a really big week from a work standpoint. And then you have another good week to follow that leading up to the 3rd preseason game. So those are no longer here. So, but I do think you still have to do some work that get you calloused for the NFL. So again, it's a juggling of the limited time here with all the things you want to get done. Today was practices was more of a preparation for the season, and and then we'll have a practice or two this week that are going to look more like a training camp practice. So we're moving back and forth and trying to manipulate that fine line.
Next up, Nick Kosmider.
Like you mentioned a couple weeks ago that maybe the one silver lining for guys battling for spots is that there were fewer guys in training camp this year than in other years. And then obviously with some guys hurt, do you feel like you still have a fair amount of evaluation data to go on and video to go on relative to what you maybe thought coming into this without the preseason?
Well, it's kind of balanced out. There are less guys here, which in turn, we're not practicing as long as we would have if we had 90. So there's a give and take there that kind of balances it out. So, yeah, some guys are getting more reps because there's less guys here, but we're spending less time on the field too. So it's just different. There's no magic answer to it. We just have to keep manipulating it as best we can. Try and get as many reps as we can with the amount of guys that we have working, and just keep chugging along there.
Next up, Eric Dalala.
Yeah, Coach, two for you. First, where do you stand at the center competition? And then second, I know you've missed a lot of football over the last couple of years, but what have you thought about how Matani Muti's played here during camp?
Muti's been good overall, up and down, like you would expect from a guy who's a rookie, and a rookie who's missed a lot of football, as you alluded to, during his college career. So he's had flashes of good play and flashes of not so good play. He had a tough night the other night in practice. He would have given up a sack or two, or at least a couple quarterback hits in the game. So, he's not where he needs to be, obviously, but we like the player.
And then where you guys stand at the center position?
Same. Right now, Christian's taking the bulk of the one snaps there, but we're still mixing in Austin and Pat there.
Guys, time for a few more. Next up, Zach Stevens.
Coach, will Bradley Chubb still be full going 100% for week one, or do you think you have to now level those expectations back?
Well, I think he's where I kind of thought he would be. I mean, we never said he was 100% yet. At least I never did. And I think what he's going through is a natural progression and recovering from his injury. And I'm still optimistic that he'll be out there in the first week and playing good. Probably not playing to the level he was pre-injury, but pretty damn close. And we'll see. But it's going to be a work in progress.
Next up, Colin Newman.
Hey, Vic, with Albert O, I know you said last week you're still trying to figure out what kind of blocker he is in terms of toughness and everything. Any more insight into that over this last week in terms of his blocking?
Yeah, he's improved in that area. I think the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things with a tight end as it relates to blocking, is do they want to do it? Do they have the mentality to block, and be prideful in it? And he's shown that he does, and he's willing. And that's a big hurdle to get over for a lot of tight ends, especially the ones coming out of college these days that don't do it much. So I think he's making good progress there.
Last two, Troy Rank, then Andrew Mason. Troy, lead us off, please.
Coach, it's off the beaten path a little bit, but I know you watch sports. The Broncos have announced today they're going to do cutouts in the stands. Do you like that when you've watched sports? Do you think it can add to the atmosphere in your stadium?
I think it's added to the, I've watched I usually end up watching some of the Rockies games late at night, the last few innings. And I do think it adds to the look on TV. I've not been to anything live since it's all happened, so I'll see. But I guess it looks good, anything we could do to simulate it. But the one thing that I came out of Saturday's practice with, we were in a big league stadium. The crowd noise kind of simulated noise that you get in a game. And I thought it was kind of normal, as much as it can be in an empty stadium. Okay, nothing can replace the fans. But I think the atmosphere will be fine. I think the football will be as well played as it can be under all the circumstances we're dealing with, and we'll get through it.
Last one, Andrew Mason.
Vic, with less time on the field, fewer days of practice, what have you had to adapt as far as situational work? And have you had to kind of prioritize some situations over others because of the limited practice time?
Yeah, we try and do situations every day, you know, and we try and have an end-of-half period and an end-of-game period where we simulate those. We work them in other spots of practice. You're right, you know, with the less time and less practice, and, you know, like it's been asked before, we got to get reps for these guys. You know, everything's crunch, so we got to try and cover them all and master all of them, and we're on our way to that. But we do have to squeeze them in, and we are.